everyone. Welcome back to Studio Bridge Artist Spotlight. My name is Ray Bonilla, and joining me today is the incredible, legendary Leo Avero. So,
Hello.
Leo, thanks so much for having just coming on, man. It's uh,
Dude,
it's
thanks for
it's been a
having
long
me.
time coming. Yeah, man. I'm
Yeah,
just so excited to chat with you. Um,
me too. I'm
so,
such a
uh,
big fan of your stuff, so it's cool for me too.
oh, no
Awesome
way.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool, man. I was like, why are you looking at my stuff? Just look at your stuff, man. Uh, yeah, I thought I'd talk about just start the discussion, just asking about kind of like your background and stuff, and
hmm
just how you came, where you're from, and where'd you study, and anything else in between.
Cool. So yeah, I'm Leo. Hi, everybody. I'm an artist based in. I currently live in Indonesia, and I'm born and raised here. I'm from a town called Bekasi. I'm not even sure if anybody knows, but yeah, this is the town I'm from, and I still live here. I work from here. So like everybody else, like every artist, I've been drawing since I was a kid, right? Just drawing Tom and Jerry cartoons and whatever. But I think I got my start when I went to like I by mistake I think went to an art school. Well, not actually by mistake, right? Because the way it works here is you choose three schools, and one of the three that I chose was I think I chose civil engineering, and the second one was computer engineering, and the third one, like a throwaway option, was like visual arts. And the third one happens to be the one that I get accepted in. So I just went to art school. And then yeah, it started from there. I actually wanted to be like a painter like you, Ray. Like that's why I'm such a big fan because damn, this is
No
the
way.
stuff that yeah, this is the stuff that I never get to do. Like because I was in graphic designs program, right? But my school is kind of weird in a way that it used to be like a school for art teachers,
Mhm.
but all the teacher there is actually a person who does fine arts in outside of school, right? So it's kind
Oh,
of
okay.
you got taught you mostly got taught like graphic design by artists who do gallery shows, right? So instead of doing graphic design, like the lessons was like watercolor painting, oil painting, and you know sculpting with clay and I think metal at some point, but I didn't take that course with metal. But yeah, it's more like a fine arts course, but with a graphic design degree, I guess. So that's why I am really into this sort of stuff. But then I think uh, during the second year, I found out about Feng Zhu.
Wow.
Feng
Yeah.
Zhu, yeah. It's his YouTube, his free YouTube videos, and I found out, this is a thing, right? So I can work in video games now because I really love video games, and I play them a lot. To I think I even like had cold turkey with online games because it just destroying my life. So I just like fuck it, no, I'm not playing online games anymore. So yeah, I love games that much, and that's why concept art is kind of the thing that I really want to do because I really wanted to work on video games. But funny story though, the reason I chose that three courses was because we didn't have money to go into film school because is like the thing that the first thing that be even before like painting like you or concept art is the thing that I really want to do, right? Is ever since I remember when one of those Nokia phones, do you know that? Like the one of those
Oh
chunky
yeah,
Nokia
man.
phones? Yeah. Ever
Yeah,
since
yeah. When they
because
started,
my
like they had video. They were like one of the first to kind of like, right?
because
Yeah.
my dad used to sell my dad was a cell phone merchant, right? So
Oh wow.
in the shop we used to have this rotation of Nokia phones, and I usually would just take one of them and make silly videos with them. So that's why I love recording stuff so much, like filmmaking. I just enjoy films, but because we didn't have money because film school is expensive, right?
Hmm.
I think in the States it's expensive. Here it's expensive, like the tuition, not to mention the
Right.
gear. So I just kind of buried that goal and just look somewhere else. And recently, when I get like work and get the money and the time to think about it, like I get back to it again. Like it's been I think 3 years since I got back to pursuing making animations and films. Like the goal is to make a feature like with a real actor, but because I think I don't have time and access to that now. I'm trying to get access to the local industry, but I just start with
Hmm.
animations first because I think what matters is, you got to show that you can tell a story first. So yeah, that's that's
So
a
you
that's a
so
lengthy backstory.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, so like you went to um is it FCD is the school? Is that like
No, no,
the
no. It's
shortened?
a local school. It's a dude.
No,
It's
for concept, for concept when you went
no,
there.
no, no. For the YouTube tutorials, yeah, I see his videos, but for
Yeah.
education, no, I didn't go to FZD.
Wow. So
Dude,
you had just learned from those tutorials and just
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at stuff.
tutorials, yeah, and just copying people basically. It's one of the ways that I know how to learn. What's funny about my school is we have a graphic design program, right?
Hmm.
And nowadays it needs a computer, right? But the computer doesn't even turn on half the time. Like what I think one of the
Right.
computers doesn't have a GPU because somebody stole it, I guess. I think some students stole the GPU. And then the other computer doesn't have a power supply. Like, how the fuck would you steal that shit? Like, no power supply, man. And yeah, when that happens, that they didn't have a camera in the classroom. They didn't even have that, so they have no way to kind of see who took it. So no computers.
Wow.
So we and I didn't have a powerful laptop back then. So sometimes I would use my shitty $200 Toshiba laptop, and when it
Yeah.
doesn't cut it, I just borrow my friends' laptops. But more often than not, it's good for the job. So I'm grateful.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's insane. The school is insane. Like the tuition was, I think per semester it was with today's money, I think $180.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. To me,
Wow,
that
that's
school is
unbelievable.
yeah. To me, that school is kind of teach me the thing about the beauty of just this fine arts world. But
Hmm.
I gotta say that other than that, it's a way for me to kind of buy time. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
my dad was, you either go to school or you work. So I just okay, I'm just gonna go to school for 4 years and be ready for better work. I don't want to be kind of you know go to into the workforce with no skill, right? So I just say,
Right.
oh, let's go. I'll go to school.
Wow. So you did a lot of like did you learn like classical drawing
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah
yeah, yeah,
and like figure drawing and painting and because that's there's some people that like at least in the States it's really common for people to not be exposed to that in
yeah,
school
yeah.
and kind of be exposed to that afterwards, you know.
We learn drawing from live models,
Hmm.
and yeah, just classical drawing, but not in the way that the proper academic way. No, but it's just but we do that. Yeah, we did those.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome experience though. I mean to kind of expose you to that because like I was thinking about that the other day. Like when else is someone ever going to run into that where like they're drawing like the nude figure from life or something like that or painting it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like you need that space in order to do that. So that's awesome that you got exposed to that. And so
yeah.
like you in when you were still in school, you got exposed to concept art via YouTube. And so you were
Hmm.
you kind of working on a portfolio at the time while still in school, or did that happen kind of afterwards?
So I think the point. I think the exact day that I saw those videos, and I just binged, I think, almost the whole channel.
Yeah, it's really easy to do. Oh
And
my God.
yeah, and then I just decided, okay, fuck school, I'm gonna do this. So from that point on, I just don't care about school anymore. So I just, do the absolute do the absolute minimum and putting all my effort into this new pursuit that I'm chasing.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
awesome. So then when did you end up graduating? What year did you
I think 2018. I graduated
Okay.
late, so yeah. Yeah, but the funny thing is, I only have a partial understanding of what concept art is, right?
Hmm.
So by the time I graduated, I didn't get a concept art job. I think I got a illustration job, like a fantasy illustration for tabletop. So
Oh, okay.
so I did a lot of that for a long time before I feel like, okay, I really need to realign my goals and just make a concept art portfolio to apply to stuff. So I got to OPB from there.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
what type of tabletop were you doing when you
Like
got out? Mhm.
Eternal. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah,
I never got to do Magic the Gathering. I really want to do one of those cards, but I did one Rune Terra for Riot.
yeah,
Yeah, so the just book covers I did a lot, and yeah, it's
that's
just
awesome.
mostly mostly just digital painting, and
Right, right.
yeah,
I did my early in my career I did a lot of illustration. And so
oh
that's
yeah,
what I went to school for. Yeah,
I
so and
see.
yeah, and then I just started working doing more illustration recently. So I've been working at
Hmm.
for Magic the Gathering doing stuff for Wizards of the Coast. Um
Nice.
for that. So, it's really interesting how illustration r- you know uh is a great way to kind of touch your teeth on things too, because like you
Uh-huh.
just learning how to work with art directors and reading a brief and
Yeah, yeah.
like I remember my
It's
first jobs, I
often
was like
really
half the time
uh, yeah, it's often really
like I
straightforward as well, right?
right, right. Yeah, nothing like but like you just have to just do all these things. What's a good sketch?
Uh-huh.
Um, and so on and so forth. So you did so from there you developed your portfolio, then went straight to one pixel
Hmm.
brush after
Yeah.
that. Okay. So for those of you
Hmm.
who don't know that are watching, pixel brush is, I mean, how would you describe it? Just like an outsourcing concept
Yeah,
art
it's
house, right?
outsourcing and concept art house. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I got it right here. For those of you watching the video portion, so
Mhm.
they do stuff for, I mean, you guys do stuff for everything. I mean, video
Yeah.
games like Last of Us 2 and a Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and um, just like I mean commercials, music
Yeah.
videos.
And we're venturing
It's
into animation with Unreal now.
oh wow,
Yeah, yeah. But I
that's
don't think
awesome.
I don't think it's in the website yet. I think it yeah, I'm not sure if it's on the website yet, but we're venturing into that. I think it is.
That's let me see,
Yeah.
where is it? Is it on Key Art?
No, I think the third one.
No. Oh, the
P
third one.
development, is that it?
I know that's Diaboli,
Yeah. Yeah,
which is
then it's
the
it's
original
not there
IP.
yet. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Hmm.
so it's helmed by Shadi Safadi, who was a concept artist for Naughty Dog back in the day, right?
Yeah, back in the day,
Yeah. Yeah.
one of the OGs of
Yeah,
Naughty
the
Dog, I think.
OGs. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. He worked on Uncharted, and we got brought in for like Jack and Daxter or something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, at least one of the
Yeah.
it's,
Dude,
it's crazy to think about that.
that's such a classic. Yeah, Jack and Daxter.
Yeah,
Holy
man.
crap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now I'm a huge video game fan, so like I played all of that,
Yeah.
like the old school Naughty Dog stuff, and
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so you so one pixel brush pretty much like when you started working there, what was what was that like? Was it because your work now is
Hmm.
pretty heavy 3D. I
Yeah.
mean, I love it because I knew you have like a painter's eye for things, which is
Mm-hmm.
different from a lot of you could see like kind of where you can almost tell where artists come from, like background wise. Um,
Yeah.
but it's how did the 3D kind of come into it? Because I mean, OPB is like really, really 3D heavy
Yeah.
with their stuff. So I mean, and I think one of the problems with 3D that um, I mean people run into all the time is just like technology hurdles. Like there's only a
Yeah.
certain amount that you could do. What you can't just like take any laptop and run Blender off of it. Um,
Yeah. You need
so
a you need a supercomputer.
yeah, yeah. So what was your first project on or how did you end up learning all that stuff? I mean, because did you were you
Uh,
kind of teaching yourself 3D along the way or
yeah, so I actually been using Blender since 2014, I think, or 13, I can't remember.
okay,
But
yeah.
using my
Well,
old Toshiba laptop, all it can do is just, model slightly more complex cubes, right? That's all it can do.
you get
But I
four
got
extrudes and that's it. It crashes, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
make a good art with four extrudes,
Yeah.
figure it out, fucking do it.
Right.
But yeah, I think I got my start in Blender when I took like a Blender course back in uni, because
Okay. Wow.
one of the graduates at that school went out to do animations locally, right? And then he kind of came back and did this really cheap Blender course for everybody. And I think it
Wow.
was I think, what is the equivalent in USD? I paid $1, I think, for that course.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
then that's where I learned my Blender basics. And to be honest with you, that's the best investment so far for me. Yeah, but for back then, for me, a whole that's like a whole fund for my 1 day of eating, right? $1, right?
Wow.
Let's because
Yeah.
yeah, that was a big
Wow.
sacrifice for me. but
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I took that, and that's the best. But because my computer doesn't really cut it for Blender, I just only use it for kind of blocking perspective and all that stuff, right? To paint on.
hmm
But once I got my job, I got enough money to buy a better computer, and that's where the learning like kind of ramps up. I can do crazier shit now.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah,
And you
but yeah, mostly just learning by myself.
and so like when you uh then got to One Pixel Brush, you had already kind of had a bunch of Blender experience and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because I think
That Back
your
for
first
Blood,
project was Black for Blood, right?
yeah, that's the first project that I've ever did.
Yeah, dude, this stuff is awesome.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah,
And we're going to talk
yeah,
about your Patreon, but I love that breakdown in your Patreon about how you put, how this was put together, uh, and how how you thought about the composition and moving things in and like the thing about this is like what people don't understand when they look at it is like, oh, look at all this stuff, but really it's so simple how you designed it, and
yeah.
I've always appreciated that about your work. It's just like the simplicity in it. It's like a couple of shapes and really strong contrast, and that's it. Like and everything
Yeah.
else is just kind of like a variation of texture.
It's
But
it's just
yeah,
flavors.
right, right.
Yeah.
Um, and so for Back for Blood, like you had mentioned about how um, the One Pixel Brush themselves, like everyone kind of worked on it. So there, it was now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Everyone was kind of making assets, and they kind of built their
Mm-hmm.
own asset library, and you guys kind of
Yeah.
kit bashed, um,
Mm-hmm.
your own respective like compositions, right?
Yeah. So the way with this is, I think the client gave us a block out of the level, right? So that already contains a lot of mesh. Like the bridge you saw, it's actually a bridge that's intact, but we had to destroy it. I think the boats are also from the block out. We just had to texture it, but I think other than that, the garbage was found by somebody else, and we put it in the folder. And the glurpy glurp on the boats, I don't know if you can see them. Those
Yeah,
are
yeah.
those are sculpted by the late Rado. And yeah, we just play with the piece. And as the project goes along, the piece got faster and faster because
Hmm.
now we have all the pieces. Just have to rearrange it.
Right. And then how was that experience working, working on that for the first time? Was it like did you feel you were ready, or like it was like eye opening, or?
Yeah, it's nerve wracking because it's kind of big for me, right? And especially the this is kind of the first big budget stuff that I've ever worked on, so to speak, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
was like each I was like each delivery, I was like preparing myself to get fired, right? Each delivery, I was like, yeah, it's all right if I get fired. Like it's everybody fails, it's just part of my journey. I'm still young. So that's every delivery is that. But you know what's crazy though? What's crazy is, you know, how much it changed my whole world. Not in a way
Right.
that, kind of this is a big achievement. No, like it changes like literally because I used to, and I don't mean to kind of turn this into kind of money talk or whatever, but I used to make like a $400 a month, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like considered a good income for one person.
Mm-hmm.
But then working on these kind of projects, I earn like I think 10 times, 12 times more. And that's
Mm-hmm.
just crazy to me. And for the longest time, I just kept the money in the bank and I didn't use it because it doesn't even register that,
Right.
it's that much. Yeah.
Right.
So for
Yeah.
people like
Yeah.
me, it's really life changing in a way. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And it allows me to do other crazier stuff, buy better gear, and so it's crazy in that way also. And it's also crazy that I get to work with all these people. That's awesome. That makes me feel depressed every single day just looking at this stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. Now I think that's important. Um,
Yeah.
it's really important. I mean, it's this is one of the things. It's like, like you literally can't uh, make art like this if you don't have a computer, right? And like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
for a lot of people, I mean, that is a huge privilege. I know it's a privilege for me,
Hmm.
and getting
Dude,
better
I'm a
gear
lucky
and
dude. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I totally get like kind of the relief um that and the time it bought you to get to do other things, which is kind of the things that you want to do, on the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's awesome. Um, so then you, and like I noticed, like from here, you started like you could tell like you went into doing more, or at least you were posting a lot of like cinematic stuff.
Yeah.
Did you immediately
Animations.
start
Yeah.
getting into, yeah, yeah, into that type of stuff like right after Back for Blood,
Not
or was it like a
really.
certain amount of time? Okay.
It's I think a year after I worked in One Pixel Brush, I started to. If you scroll down, there's a series of keyframes. I think. Let me see which one was that. Yeah, it's. I think I archived it, but I did these series of keyframes, right? And it's
Hmm.
actually that one, the top right one, top right. Yep. So the
Oh,
first one,
Revenge.
I think
Yeah, man.
yeah, the first time I think I archived. So I did these right, and by the time I'm done with these, I was like, dude, wouldn't it be so cool if it was animated? And like I think 2 3 months after, I just jumped into it, just trying to animate stuff without ever knowing a single thing about the workflow. You know I just jumped in, and I kind
Right.
of learned by doing from there. And the output was a year and a half later, I have that short, the CG short Revenge. And that's why the story is kind of paper thin in that short, because it's also like a tech demo for myself, because I'm actually
Right.
figuring stuff out with that. And the second one that I'm
Yeah.
doing, I'm trying to get the writing in order. So I've been taking writing courses and all that stuff to make it good. So hopefully it's not as paper thin as this first one.
Right. Well, I mean, but I think the uh yeah, I loved I had watched Revenge, and it's like uh it was awesome though, because it's you were telling this so much of the story through, lighting and like
Mm-hmm.
um contrasting colors and just like composition, and edge control, and all this like amazing stuff that like you didn't even think about, like the fact that it's a really straightforward story. It's like how you told it. I thought was really really beautiful, on
Appreciate
that.
that,
So
man.
like I
Thank
really
you.
appreciated it. Yeah, man. It's so crazy to think like, so I studied animation, um for like back in the day, and I actually went to school. Like I didn't even want to.
Oh,
I had no intentions of being a painter at all, and I went to grad
damn.
school for for computer animation, right? Because I wanted to work for
Mhm.
Pixar and stuff. So like I
Oh, I
remember
see.
how hard it was at the time and this was like 2005, how hard it was to do your own thing. And it was like
Yeah.
just being possible. Like if you had like a really incredible computer, you
Hmm.
could pull off like en Maya, you could
Yeah.
you could do your own short. And
Mhm.
it was almost nearly impossible. You needed a small army to do it, but like it was possible. It wasn't like a whole studio, but like you're doing this by yourself. And that is
Mhm.
like, that's pretty like, I don't know. I think like the way technologies kind of advanced, like it's made um this trend. So it's made the person who likes to create and tell their own stories even that much more
Yeah.
empowered. And that
It
was like
enabled
one of the
many people.
real
Yeah.
reasons why I wanted. Yeah, and one of the real reasons like I wanted to talk to you, because like
I see.
this type of stuff is like really the I always found like what you guys do at One Pixel Brush, and then also just like what you do yourself, especially with your films, is like the could be a real future for movie making, in general.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so like you're this with Revenge, did you did you have the Rococo suit at this point,
No, I at the
or
first
did you handmade?
I think the first year I didn't have the Rococo suit because I was kind of hesitating like splurging all that money on a suit. And for the first
Yeah.
year I either bought some animation assets and hand tweaked them or hand
Hmm.
animated some. So it's a mix, right? And then I think after a year of trying to make this stuff, I was like, damn, I really need a suit right now. And I bought the suit, and because of COVID and all that logistic issues they were having, and the suit came like 6 months after, and that's part of why this took so long as well. Because I was waiting for the suit, and when the suit came, I was just finishing it quick because everybody's everything's already there. It just needs to be assembled with the
Right.
animation.
Wow. So for those of you who don't know, a Rococo suit is it's a motion capture suit that you put on,
Yeah, yeah.
and uh, and it's just like tracks your movements and everything like that, and it makes the motion capture. I mean, like I'm just thinking about like what motion capture was like before, because like I'd look at all the
Dude,
behind the scenes and video games and like the stages, the huge
you need a
stage with all the
warehouse.
cameras
Yeah.
and the
Yeah, you need
balls,
a
and like
warehouse.
it's like
Just
it's like now
hundreds
you
of
could just get a
cameras,
suit.
dots in your face. Yeah. Now you can just, hey,
Yeah.
buy a
So
suit.
right. And yeah, and so you immediately started making that type of stuff. Like, so what did you learn from this first film after you had finished it?
After I finished it, I think the immediate kind of gain from this is I know my way Blender better than ever before. I
Hmm.
know Blender a lot more now, and I got a Blender pipeline locked down for me for animations. And I also learned that this kind of stuff, why films are so expensive and need so many people. It's because it's just complicated. And
Right.
I learned also a lot about kind of visual storytelling because I send these to people too privately, and they have a lot of thoughts. And I have a local friend who's making films as well, and he gave some thoughts, and learned a lot from that. But I think what's more important than that is I kind of proved to myself that, yeah, like, I can stick to stuff, right? Because it's hard to stick to stuff for this long. But a kind of a personal achievement
Right.
of mine is, yeah, this I kept this going for like a year and a half, and I didn't stop, and there's an output. So it kind of boosted my confidence by a lot there. And I also learned that you cannot tell them you cannot make a short film without a story, like at least a good one. So that's why the
Hmm.
next one I'm trying to really tell a good story.
Yeah.
Uh, and
And
what's
from the
kind of,
time that,
yeah,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
what's kind of funny is the second one I'm trying to do in Unreal, so I'm kind of repeating all the process all over again. I'm just relearning stuff. It's kind of stupid, but whatever. I just want to do it. If I
Yeah.
do it in Blender, it's gonna be 3 times as fast. But no, I just want to do it in Unreal now.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's that's another like super crazy powerful software that I have to learn myself. I mean, you have and we're going to talk about your courses, but your tutorials, but you have this Unreal filmmaking tutorial that I'm going through
Yeah, yeah,
right now, and it's like crazy. It's crazy. What you could get just like eh, just
yeah.
just a one person just doing that
Just a
with like just
healthy, sane person can do. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So between like so Back for Blood was what year was that? I thought I had the years down and
19, I
I
think,
forgot.
when I was working
Okay.
on it, or 20, no,
S-
2020 when I was working on it now.
Okay.
2020, and I think
So
2021 it came up, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so between now back then and then like I guess when you got to like things like Blue Beetle and stuff
Mm-hmm,
like that, because I know we'll talk about
mm-hmm.
Blue Beetle, a bunch of the other things. Um, did the did your working methods change? Because
Oh,
it
a
feels
lot.
like someone's like the stuff that was like 2 years ago, all of a sudden is
Mm.
not how people work, and
Yeah.
because technology is evolving so fast.
Mm-hmm. It changed a lot, a lot. It kind of generally the same way, but the way I kind of prioritize stuff changes a lot, right? Back then, I think I used to kind of do what do you get? A lot of blockouts with simple blocks, and nowadays I just do a mix of the both because, especially with landscapes and with if you're doing realistic, right? Obviously, with the
Hmm.
scans and all that stuff, I find it faster when you're used to seeing compositions in a blocky state. I think you have an eye for seeing through the composition through a detailed asset. So because I kind of have that eye now, I just find it okay, it's faster if I just use this asset. And for the really, really important stuff, then I still kind of do blockouts, drawing designs, but for all the fillers like the ground or the whatever, I just do the final assets. I think it's faster
Hmm.
that way. But personally, I still do blockouts. I work the fastest way just because it's a job, right? Because you need efficiency. But for personal, I just take my time, do blockouts, make it the best possible, kind of in that way that I enjoy, because I really enjoy making blockouts and sketching still, even though I don't do sketching as much anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
but with
yeah.
character, yeah, with character tasks, I still draw. So that's like a kind of welcome respite too whenever doing characters.
Right. Yeah, that's what one thing that's awesome about you is that you're kind of like a dual threat in that respect. Like you do environments and then you also do characters as well, which is not the same. I mean, not everyone does that,
Mhm.
um but that, I think it's really interesting how uh just in terms of just skill sets have evolved and
Mhm.
um I remember I was listening to a talk that Shadi did, um, and he was talking about he showed like a Ralph McQuarrie
Mm-hmm.
image, and he was like, this was acrylic painting, all
Oh yeah,
with
yeah,
an
yeah,
underdrawing that was all plotted out perspective, and like you don't, it's like that is not the skill set anymore for something like that. You would never be asked to do, an acrylic painting for a piece of
yeah,
concept art,
yeah, yeah.
unless it was like some sort of niche thing. But um, and even when you look at something like Jamie Jones, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and just like Craig Mullins, like old school, I mean, we call it old school, but it's digital art,
Yeah. It's crazy,
painterliness,
right?
and
It's
you know,
digital, but it's
yeah,
totally old school. Yeah.
yeah, yes, it's like about brushstrokes like John Park, or like,
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
just oozing over like Andrew Jones's like Metroid Primes, um, concepts, and just like stuff like Massive Black used to do for
Oh
all the
yeah,
video games they
Massive
used to
Black.
work on. Yeah, man, and but now like you see what you guys do, and just people like John Sweeney, and
Mm-hmm.
Eitan Zana, like they 3D is a lot, it has kind of put the forefront. You see a lot of the painters sort of eye towards it, but
Yeah.
uh, it's a much different product when output
Mm-hmm.
wise, because it's so much
Yeah.
more closer to the final product, which is, I guess, the
Yeah.
the whole point of it,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Yeah.
so you had mentioned scans being kind of the big thing that you guys were uh, you find yourself working on now versus like
Mm-hmm.
before. Is it like, do you see like how you're sourcing your information and your assets that's changed? Is it more like, is it less handmade stuff, or is it um and more kind of like from life?
Mm-hmm. Currently, it's a
Um,
mix.
photo.
It's kind of 50-50 currently, but lately I've been trying to take my a lot of my own scans as well because I think I view it like when you remember the first time that photo bashing was the thing, right?
Yeah,
Everybody was
man.
starting
Yeah.
to do it. I think scans is just like that now, but it's just a 3D mesh instead of a photo. So
Right.
I think part of the fun is taking your own and then working that into your piece. I think that's kind of the fun of it. But in terms of the assets that I use for work, yeah, buy, download them. But it's kind of a 50-50 versus a handmade work now. It kind of depends on the
Yeah.
project too. Yeah.
Right. Right. I mean, it's amazing to see. Like, I just I'm also going through Piotr's um how do you pronounce it? Forgive me. How do you pronounce his last name?
Piotr
Um,
Krinsky, I think.
Piotr Krinsky.
Yeah.
Great, another fellow art director at One
Yeah.
Pixel Brush, and he has a great tutorial called Efficient Environmental Design, and just seeing how he uses his scans is pretty
Yeah.
incredible. And but just seeing like the fact that like not so long ago, you had images like this, like done by Florent Leblanc, and they were all just photos. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like it's like I know Florent, did start getting into Blender at the end of The Last of Us, but um,
Yeah.
it's just like it's crazy how workflows change. For just to get things more. I guess it's down to kind of efficiency, right, and ease
Yeah.
of
It
use,
changes a
and
lot. Yeah.
yeah. So all of this stuff, like when you're working on client stuff, like this type of stuff, like I know like these are um these personal works, like how are you making sure that you set aside time to do them, um or
For
is it something
personal?
that like, yeah, like if it's like, because I know like that's one of the things that I find that like for you is like yes, you do concept art and you do art direction as well. But you're a filmmaker, right? And so like
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
you're using the concept art as a way of, you know, funding or your
Yeah.
filmmaking. And I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. It's like how do you balance the work, your work with like your personal work, or is that do you find difficulty in that? I know some artists don't. Some artists are just like, I mean,
Hmm.
for me, I know I'm like, my personal work is, I carve out time to do it, and then if I have any client work, um it'll have time. My personal work always has its own time. It's never gonna like
Yeah. Yeah.
um overtake it. But other artists just really struggle with that.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's the same way. I'm the same with you. I try to carve time for it because to me, if I don't do that, then my client work will suffer because I'm just gonna keep thinking about it. I just can't
Mhm.
focus. I just want to do this, and it's gonna suffer. So I have to do it. So I carve time to do it. And sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's not. It's difficult when the client work gets crazy, and the personal work kind of have to take a back seat a little bit. But I usually would take just short breaks to kind of catch up with personal works and all that stuff. And I'm lucky enough that Shadi lets me do that, right? Yeah, and he understands the urge to do it because he's got his own stuff that he's working on as well.
Right,
So he understands
right.
as long as it's not like a half year break, right? That's crazy, but yeah, he understands. So that's cool about him. And yeah, I carved out time, but for me, I sometimes even and this is a bad habit of mine is I sometimes sacrifice sleep to do it, and
Hmm.
it's not intentional because the point where you're working on stuff, right? And you see the clock. Okay, it's 9 p.m. I should get ready for bed now. Oh no, probably just 15 minutes and I'm gonna finish. And before you know it, it's 3 a.m.
Oh my God, that
Right.
happens to
That
me all the
that's
time.
that slippery slope of 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Oh my God. I just I got it. I was able to, with painting, it would happen all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And then I became a dad, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can't do this because I'm gonna kill myself because I gotta
Yeah.
take care of this other uh,
Yeah.
other human being. And
Yeah.
so I was able to cut myself self off, right? And just have like, okay, this is when I stop. And
Mm-hmm.
it took a while, but I got it, right? And so, but then I started learning 3D over the last like year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like a time vortex because like you're right, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna tweak this thing, let me mess around with this like I don't like the way this is like the bump on this is a little bit too
Yeah.
much. You know what, let me try a different type of texture on it, let me just mix that together. Oh, what if I brought
Yeah.
this in a 3D code, and like, and then you
Yeah.
just like look, why is it 1:30, like why is it 1:30 in the
Yeah.
morning?
Yeah. Time flies.
Yeah, yeah. So that's great. I mean, that's awesome that you're constantly doing that, because I know, I mean, I've talked to other artists who who do client work, and they're just like, where their art making ends kind of ends with client work, and that's totally cool.
That's cool.
Um
Yeah.
but I'm totally like I have to make something for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love working with clients, and I love working on teams and things like that. Like it's cool, but there's also like a huge part of me that really needs to make something my own,
Yeah. Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
get to call the shots, um
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. Uh so from from this type of stuff, I mean, did your influences change? Because I noticed, like, as the years went from between back to blood and, like, let's just say like the Little House, there's
Mm-hmm.
definitely much more of a, it's not that like the Back for Blood work was bad in any way. It was just more like when you got to this type of stuff, and especially like I have to show this one right here, the Morning Meadows. uh
Oh
like
yeah.
this is like you're really dialing into like the language of cinema, and like kind of in an old school way, like in a
Mm-hmm.
cinemat, like the way I was just watching a documentary on the history of cinematography, and
Oh
the
yeah.
way those cinematographers talked, they were talking like it's almost like they were painters, um
Yes. Yes.
right, and like everything's about like, shape design and lighting, and how the light tells a story, and when I saw this stuff that you were doing, I was like, man, this is like painting, but in he's really delving into that old school film language. Is that true, or is that something that you were consciously doing, or?
Yeah, yeah. That's obviously that's kind of, you're spot on. That's I try to do that consciously because yeah, you're right. The influences change, right? And there's many reasons for that. One of the reasons is because I grew up on kind of these films, right? Because my dad used to rent a lot of DVDs, and I just would took one of them and watch them sometimes. So
Yeah,
those movies I grew up on, like East Asian cinema, like action cinema, Jackie
yeah,
Chan, Chow Yun Fat, all that cinema I gobbled up growing up. Wong Kar-wai romance films too, I watched growing up. So
yeah.
the influence kind of came back to me lately. Like I kind of go into that kind of region of influence again. But the other reasons is also that because I work in concept art a lot, right? Like there's many images that I don't post because of NDA, and I kind of do it every day. I kind of feel like if I also do the same thing for personal work, wouldn't it be like kind of redundant, right? Because I already
Hmm.
do it for work. I gotta do something that I really want to do in personal work. So I just pulled back into that old influence. And this one I was specifically working on after just gobbling up Andrei Tarkovsky films.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, you
just,
introduced me to
yeah,
him when I saw that the Blender
yeah,
tutorial was the first time I heard of him, and I looked his
yeah.
stuff up, and it's like, whoa.
Tarkovsky,
Yeah.
Sergei. I think you're gonna love Sergei Parajanov too.
Oh, I got
Sergei
to check him out.
Parajanov. Yeah, I gotta type the name for you, Sergei Parajanov,
Okay.
but you can search it later.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, his
Sweet.
stuff.
Thanks, man.
And yeah, but yeah, so it's definitely a conscious choice because I think it's easy nowadays to create stuff that's bombastic with a lot of details and all this stuff, you
Hmm.
know. And I feel like what's still lacking that I want to see more is that stuff that's more subtle and, you know, more kind of gives you the atmosphere rather than just a visual feast. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
because I
I
kind of
kind of.
really like that about art. Like I like art that's atmospheric. That's why I like your stuff so much, because it's a painting first of all, right? So it already has an atmosphere to it. But the other thing about it is as well that you're painting with trees and cars. I really love that because you kind of feel kind of the late day light, the softness of it, and it's just the vibes to me. I
Yeah.
really love
Thanks,
it.
man.
Yeah,
Thanks. Yeah, and I mean that's it comes from a lot of just film too, and looking at and photography uh and looking at painters that really fell in love with that. I mean, it's so
yeah,
interesting, like how like I learned a lot so much from looking at stuff like this, because
yeah.
it's really it just really tells you like it's really not the detail.
Mm-hmm.
It's a what happens when you can get photorealistic detail in anywhere you want. Like you get all this,
Yeah,
you can it starts to become like noisy, like you were saying, and bombastic. And
yeah,
if that
yeah,
solves a problem, that's cool. But like, what if you instead of using a super strong rim light to
yeah.
carve out the figure, what if you had it was just like an overcast, really really soft light that's
Mm-hmm.
hitting the side just enough to kind of um uh silhouette the figure. It's
Yeah,
really awesome. I mean, that's so cool that you're doing that. And with this type of just in terms of like, I hope you don't mind me asking, kind of like
sure.
meat and potato process stuff, but like, is it I know you said it was all done in Blender, but are you using like kind of character creator and marvelous
Yeah.
designer or any of those
Oh yeah,
things?
for sure. That
Um,
character is in character creator that I made a long time ago, and I just reused it. And that garment is also from Marvel's designer that I made a long time ago. So I just kind of already have that character and just repost it and put it there.
wow. And this is like
Yeah.
no Photoshop on or paint over on top
Very
of it or
little,
anything.
a
Okay.
bit on the hair and on the horizon, because on the 3D the horizon is kind of sharp, and
Right, right,
In reality, when you see far into the horizon, it's kind of blurry almost a little bit, right? Just a
right.
little bit. So just introduce one of, those imperfections, but not much.
Yeah,
Like I think it's less than 10% even.
that's awesome. I mean, just to like this is like I love the fact that this like really high grass, this tall grass is just moving towards like the face and everything is moving towards this way and like just a breakup. And this is really
Thanks, dude.
that's like yeah, I love looking at this piece all the time when I open up ArtStation. I'm like, dude, I gotta look at this piece just one more time to see what Leo was doing,
Uh-oh.
um, so it because you could see like kind of like even like it in these like uh this one that's like a different tonality to it. Like
Yeah.
you're doing things like that film would do and painting would do, which is like the grouping of these values, like
Yeah. Yeah.
in this one sort of large shape. Like it's not a bunch of like it's not like you're throwing like a bunch of these beautiful
Mm-hmm.
uh photorealistic assets just all at once, like
Yeah.
I found that was one of the things I found myself doing when I got like botanic or geoscatter. It's like, man, I could just make anything. Here you go, here's a
Yeah.
biome, and then that's it, right? And then like it like crash your computer because you realize like it's like 26
Yeah.
million polygons, and so but then at the end of the day it's like, oh, that was cool that I did that, but like now when that becomes kind of like, okay, so what,
Mm-hmm.
what can you do with it? And
Exactly.
I think it's,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know um so I just love that just this grouping of
Yeah.
these trees right here. I mean, I, and I don't know, I think maybe like before I learned 3D, I always thought that you got that stuff for free, like in terms
Mm-hmm.
of all of the just atmosphere. It was like, oh, that's just a thing you could just kind of you did for
Yeah.
free. And but it's like
Uh,
so much of it is such a conscious choice.
yeah.
And it's still like you really need to know about image making in order to
Mm-hmm.
put
Yeah.
this stuff together. So I can only imagine like what putting together a movie is like, because you got to do this time and time again, and there it's not like,
Yeah. Every
you
frame is
know
a painting.
right, right. And it
Yeah.
can't be the same painting, right? Because it's like then it
Yeah.
becomes boring, right?
Uh-huh.
Some have to be loud, some have to be soft. It's kind of designing. I mean, I'm not comparing this at all to it, but it's the way I think about like when I'm designing a show,
Mm.
of paintings. Like I just finished up a solo show, and I did like 20 pieces for it,
Hell yeah,
and
dude.
you like there's you think about them individually, of course, but you also want to make sure that they all look good together, because if they don't, then it could suffer, right? And it's
Uh-huh.
it's very akin to kind of filmmaking. There are times where like you can, if you have everything that's noisy,
Mm-hmm.
then none of the pieces look noisy to you,
Yeah.
or bombastic. None of the
Yeah.
pieces look bombastic. Like, so you have to have ones that are loud, ones that are soft,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. So, I love that kind of balance with it, especially what you're doing also with color and things like that. So, um, so what in terms of like, where do you? I know you talked about Unreal. Uh, where do you see kind of yourself like in 5 years? Is like is I know you're doing more art directing,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing concept. Um,
Yeah.
a side note, is that do you guys kind of switch off on that? Is that what it is now? Because I know you had mentioned like, oh, I do concept art. So is it sometimes you art direct and then sometimes you
Yeah.
do?
Sometimes if really needed, I do concept art. And if I
Okay,
really feel strongly about one project, I was like, Shadi, please, I want to do this.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah. I need to do
yeah,
this. Because art directing, I think, is a different kind of beast, right? It's a more managerial job,
hmm,
so to speak. But concept art is just more like on the trench, and sometimes you just want to, you know, fight some fights, so that's fun. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
good,
Give me the
good.
machine gun. I'll show you how it's
Yeah,
done. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I need a knife.
I need a knife.
Yeah, just cut
Don't you?
people.
Right, yeah. So I mean, like, where do you I guess see your your career, I guess, 5 years from now? I mean, what do you where do you see kind of anything going 5 years from now? Because I feel like we're in such a flux uh,
Yeah,
of like, especially nowadays. Um, I mean, we don't have to get into the whole AI discussion, but just like that
yeah,
idea um, puts a lot of things in like this sort of holding pattern in a sense.
hmm,
Um,
yeah,
especially just when it comes to just how people work and
hmm,
um, what the outcome is going to be on it. And I mean,
yeah.
do you have any thoughts on just kind of like future wise where you see yourself
Mm,
moving, or where your thoughts are?
yeah,
Uh,
dude. Before that, I kind of remember something with a previous thing that we talked about, like the late
mhm.
legendary Kim Jong Gi.
Oh, dude, man.
Yeah, in one
I
interview
saw
he
him
said
draw
like,
once. I
mhm.
actually
Oh
saw him
yeah,
draw live. Yeah, man. Not one of
damn,
those like big
jealous.
events. It was like a comic convention, and he had just like started becoming big.
Oh yeah,
And I was like, oh, that's that dude, on Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, he's awesome. And he's
mm.
just like just doing this thing. And I'm like, where's he's not looking at anything.
Yeah, yeah,
He's just like,
yeah.
I'm gonna throw a car here and then 500 figures there. But
Yeah,
anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah. So in one interview, he said that during my early 20s, like he said, I'm really interested in just kind of crazy poses, explosion, and people fighting. But he said, as I get older, I care more about people sitting on a subway, sleeping after work, you know, people reading magazine. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, cool, cool. And lately, I've been feeling the same too. I kind of relate more because I think when you see, especially nowadays, and we can segue this into the discussion of this topic about future, but nowadays when you see so many amazing stuff so easily made, right, with a lot of spectacle movies, why do people not doesn't show up to them, and why people show up to more kind of Oppenheimer, even though Oppenheimer is
Mhm.
kind of a big movie too, but it's more centered around a story of a character, right? Something
Right.
different, like a Barbie too. Why do people show up for that but not for the spectacle? Well, I think because people care more about stories, right? And Kim Jong Gi saying that made me realize that, oh yeah, the more perspective that you have, the more appreciation that you have for subtle kind of daily stuff, because life is already beautiful, and
Right.
you don't need every single superpower magic in the world to make something kind of really touch people in that way. So that kind of opened my eyes too. But in the future, I think with the disruption that's been going on with technology, AI, and all this stuff, and I don't feel too threatened about it, to be quite honest with you, because I still believe that humans want to see humans. I still
Mhm.
believe in that. No matter what the tool is going to be, whether or not this AI is going to be kind of settled ethically or legally, we'll still have to see that, right? But in the end of the day, I think what's going to float upwards is just, the stuff with substance, with stories. And currently, the people who make AI art is mostly just hobbyists, right? And
Right.
I believe once artists go into it, then it's going to be, if we ever get into it, like it's gonna be elevated that much more, and it's not going to be, you know, we're not gonna be out compete. I feel like if we're going into that, but that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, I feel good
Yeah.
about the future. And as for myself, I'm actually trying to do an initiative locally because I feel like there's so many talented people in this country, but one of the biggest barriers is language, right?
Mm.
So once you go to a certain level of proficiency with anything, not just art, with anything, the next resource that's available is in English. And many people doesn't
Right.
even know English here. Like many people, like the Gen Z in Indonesia knows English really well sometimes in big cities, but in smaller cities, no, like not many people know English. So I'm trying to start like a school for locally, or like an art school kind of thing.
Right. Wow.
And it's gonna be affordable. And I'm just trying to, because it changed my life, right? So I want more people to have the same opportunity. And I'm privileged in a way that I pick up language easy because at home my dad is Chinese. So we speak Chinese at home and speak Indonesian outside of home. So ever since I
Uh,
was a child, I have an experience with many languages. So when I grew up, I picked up English easy. And I realized that many people doesn't have that privilege, and I was so lucky too. So I'm just trying to give that opportunity to more people because I feel like so many talented people, but that's just the barrier that we have to kind of break before everybody
yeah,
can get into the next level. And I'm lucky to have
yeah,
a partner who's like uh the business guy, so they can handle that. But yeah, that's my goal for the next 5 years, to share more, because and to make more films, hopefully a feature. But yeah, that's
that's
it. That's
awesome. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's super generous and noble of you. I mean, I think that's one of the big things I I really try and believe in too. It's just the affordability of things. It just,
Yeah.
you know, I went to an expensive art school, and uh I couldn't afford it, and so I had
Mm-hmm.
to take out loans to do that. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's my opinion now. I don't think anyone should put themselves in a position where they're putting in, they're crippling themselves financially just to
Yeah.
learn this sort of skill set. It shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be kind of relegated to
Yeah.
only a small percentage of people. So, you know, just the cost of that I know, like in visual arts passage where I
Mm-hmm.
teach and where, who sponsors this. I mean, they're really big about that same thing. So they all kind of share that, that notion of just affordable education, and also just like you talk about language, like, and there's also like just distance too. Like there was a time where,
Distance.
right? Yeah, like it's just like there was a time where, like, if you weren't in the States, you didn't learn, or if you weren't in the coast, forget about like being like, even if you
Yeah.
were in the US, if you didn't go to
Yeah. You're
California
in the
for certain
Midwest or
things,
something.
or if you're in the Midwest, you're done. Like you can't,
Yeah.
if you're lucky, you can maybe get to one of the big cities and maybe get
Yeah.
something. But nowadays it's, people are really pushing the uh just being able to learn online and communicate online. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously like we're doing now, so I think I believe that that's a really awesome trend, and I think that that's trend that's gonna keep everything alive.
Yeah.
Not sort of big institutions in that sense. Like what
Yeah.
you're doing, I think is
Yeah.
gonna
And
have
I have
a
to
lot of
mention this too,
implications.
because this is what inspired me. My buddy Satish Kumar. I think you should talk to him. He's an
Hmm.
interesting guy too. But yeah, he
I
started
love his
this
work. I
initiative.
love his work.
Yeah.
Art Train Academy, right?
Yeah. He started
Yeah.
this initiative in India, for because in India people speak different languages in each region, right?
Right.
So
Right.
he just traveled across India doing really cheap courses. I think for $10 he did like more than 10 hours and several days of education just for
Oh,
people who
wow.
speak Tamil, right? Just that, not the usual Indian language. But yeah, he's awesome in that way, because he sincerely just want to share to more people, because he also believes that the language barrier needs to be torn down a little bit,
Hmm.
and those of us who have the privilege needs to kind of share to people who doesn't yet have it. I think
Right.
that's gonna what's gonna make this world a better place to be cheesy, right? But yeah, that's true, I think. So he really inspired me, so I gotta give him credit.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's I mean, he's a great artist, and I mean, I know Art Train Academy's got some incredible people
Yeah.
teaching. I know Kevin Jick. Uh,
Yeah, Kevin.
he's another just great artist.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know you taught there, right? You did
Yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah, yeah,
mentorship there. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, I think that it's cool that you're talking about that, because I always, just from looking at I'd be remiss if I. It's a great time to talk about actually your tutorials, but also your Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, your breakdowns, and you talk about just art and stuff like that. I taught at university for
Mm-hmm.
13 years,
Oh
and
yeah.
now I'm just doing art full time. And so like I always love running into people who are good teachers because I my first um experience with art, I didn't have great teachers. And
I
so
see.
with the exception of maybe one, with
Mm-hmm.
the exception of one initially. And then I got lucky and went to grad school and then just got lucky with just incredible teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know the value of having of bad information and good information. And
Yeah.
it's yours is definitely part of the good information crowd and just
Oh,
your
thank you.
you know the honesty and things like that. Uh I think that's something that's really to be celebrated and give you kudos for it. And your Patreon's just filled with that. Just you, it's just straightforward, and you're being honest, and you're not, it's super affordable too, and you just give so much, which is awesome. I mean, I think that's one of the things just in terms of the learning this type of stuff is the technological hurdle. Forget, like I can't even imagine with somebody who doesn't speak English because like just learning, it's not like you just say like I'm going to learn 3D and then it's like okay, cool, open Blender and then you're fine,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like what menu? Oh my god, I moved this thing and now I have four windows. Where'd those come from? How do I close the windows?
Yeah.
Like I want to do, why does my model look all gray? How do I change the color?
Yeah.
Textures and
Yeah.
things like that. So I mean, you have to learn like these little things, uh
Mm-hmm.
and the workflow is so important and stuff. So uh yeah, I think for those of you watching it or listening, check out Leo's Patreon, and uh it's it's great. And then there's
Hey,
your art
hey.
station is awesome too. I mean, I think
Thank you, man.
Unreal Engine 5 filmmaking is awesome. Cinematic Blender tutorial, Home at Last, like those two I know for sure. Like I've watched, um, especially the cinematic Blender tutorial because I'm just watching that again because I'm learning Marvelous Designer, and so
Nice.
uh, just like how you think about things, and I think is really awesome. And I know you have like a Gumroad with both of them on there too, uh,
Yeah.
with uh, with those two. Uh, so is there anything you want to plug beyond that? I know like we're a little over time, so I don't want to take up too much of your
Yeah.
time or cut into your
Yeah.
breakfast too,
So
because I know it's 12 hours ahead.
nah, no
You know.
problem. Yeah. So next month I think at some point this month or next month we're gonna announce the next batch of the mentorship in our train academy. So watch out for that. But other than that, yeah, I think I don't have anything more to plug. You mentioned it all, so that's cool. And oh yeah, I want to mention this. So I heard this really cool set. I think Einstein said it or who, but what's so heartbreaking is not that geniuses. I am paraphrasing, obviously. Like geniuses exist everywhere, but what's heartbreaking is we might already have people who are smarter than Einstein just dying in cobalt mines. So
Yeah.
that kind of really stuck with me, and I feel like yeah, like what if like because I have this friend who's like really smart back at school
Hmm.
because he was really poor, he couldn't do much. Like his hands are tied, but he's really genius. Like he made all of this kind of DIY engineering projects. That's so crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And it's heartbreaking because because of that hurdle, people cannot do stuff. So that's part of why I believe so much in kind of sharing because who knows, right? We might have the next big genius.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think
Right.
that's it.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
awesome,
and
man.
check out check out
That's a
Ray's website, raymondbonilla.com. Yeah. Or Bonilla. Yeah.
yeah,
Raymond.
Bonilla. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
gonna auto link it to your art station though. So I'm gonna change it
Yeah.
right now before the episode goes live. So
Shit.
yeah.
Yeah, man.
Leo, thanks so much, man. It's a
Hey, thanks
pleasure
for having me,
to
dude.
chat with you,
Yeah.
man.
That
Yeah.
was fun. That was
And
fun.
so yeah, I'll stop the recording, and before I do, if you like this episode, please like it, hit subscribe button, follow Leo also on YouTube. Oh my God, I forgot to talk about this. Check out the Q&A roundtable. It's
Yeah, we're
amazing.
gonna do another
Loved it.
one of that. Yeah,
Amazing stuff, and just
yeah,
filled with just amazing Bart,
yeah.
Piotr, Marius. I forgot to mention uh, Abel as well, who's another awesome one pixel brush artist. So, um, yeah. So, and I guess outside of that, that's it. So we'll see you in the next episode,
Cool
and I'm
beans.
out.